What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Riddell, and today we got our 11th installment of the subscriber game analysis series when y'all send in one of your games and it has a chance to get analyzed on the channel. Now, today's game comes from my guy Pepper Westwood, and he played a pretty impressive match, especially as he's only been playing chess for about a year. Here in this 5-3 game, he found himself with the black pieces and immediately responded against e4 with the Alekhine's defense, an underrated system. And really, by playing this, we're giving white the opportunity to play moves like e5, followed by c4, kind of kicking our knight around, but that's exactly what we want. We're trying to give white the center, and in return, go after that center as a huge target for the rest of the game. But here, white decides not to go with the move e5, and instead plays knight c3, trying to reach a somewhat normal position. But now we see d5, a strong line with a Scandinavian variation, immediately giving white a big decision to make. And there's really only two moves that give white a good game. One of them is playing the move e5, which is what we see in this match, and another one is taking on d5. Now, if e takes d5 is played, black has a very simple and easy game ahead of them. For example, let's just take back with the knight, and here if a move like bishop c4, I mean, we have a lot of flexibility here. We could play moves like c6, e6, or even the move knight b6 followed by knight c6. And if a move like knight f3, get our bishop out, play a move like e6. We're just looking to naturally develop our pieces. And notice here in a position like this, if white doesn't play the move a3 or a4, trying to give this bishop a little bit of space to run away, and plays a move like d4, we now have this option of knight a5 in the air. And all of a sudden, guys, we're simply about to go up the bishop pair, continue to naturally develop our pieces, and we don't got no worries. However, as I mentioned, guys, in this game, we see the move e5 instead, attacking this knight on f6. And now the most popular moves for black are knight fd7, attacking that pawn on e5, as well as this move knight e4. But here we see our guy Pep continue with d4, which is another good option. Whole idea being if he takes f6, winning our knight, okay, we'll take your knight as well. And here white could have taken with f takes g7, in which case we're simply able to play c takes d2 with check, and then win that pawn back, and in which case we're still at even material. But here white keeps things simple, plays the move b takes c3, and now e takes f6. Here white expands in the center with the move d4, and now black just continues with natural developmental chess of bishop d6, followed by queen e7 with check, attacking the king, and following bishop e2, we see bishop g4. And now this move queen d3 from white. I'm a little bit confused on why white played this. I'm assuming that they were a little bit worried about bishop takes f3 ideas, because right now we're actually threatening to take this knight and give white double isolated and isolated pawns on the king side. And now we see white continue with the move queen d3. I don't really think that this was the best option from white. White was probably concerned about bishop takes f3 ideas, because right now we're actually threatening to give white double isolated and isolated pawns on the king side, which wouldn't be too good because their pawn structure on the queen side isn't looking too great already. But this whole bishop takes f3 threat can be easily avoided by simply castling kingside. And after queen d3, it seems as if white is threatening to play queen b5 with check, but now we can just play this move knight d7 or a move like knight d7, and we're completely fine. And this is exactly what our guy Pep did. And against the move h3, kept this bishop on the board with bishop h5, and the very next move played bishop g6, attacking this queen, giving this queen a big decision to make. In the game, we see the move queen d1, this queen going back home, but I just want to mention really quickly, if a move like queen b5 attacking our pawn on b7, guys, in chess, we always have to be very careful when moving our pawns, because obviously they cannot move backwards. If you make a decision with one of your pawns, you're going to be feeling it, good or bad, for the rest of the game. Here we could play a move like b6, but guys, this is really going to weaken our light squares. Instead, we should just play a move like bishop e4, keep our position together, continue with moves like castling kingside, a6, attacking this queen, and we're in business. However, against this move, bishop g6, black dropping this bishop and attacking that queen, we see queen d1, and now black continuing with castling kingside. And against the move a4, white expanding on the queen side of the board, rook fe8, actually threatening to capture the bishop on e2. And now after rook e1, I actually really like this move, queen f8, bringing this queen to the back rank. Some of you may wonder, why on earth would we ever do this? Well, guys, in chess in general, we don't want our queen leading the charge in terms of a battering ram, especially when it is directly aimed at a rook. For example, let's say we didn't play the move queen f8, but instead went with something like c6. Some may not be too worried about a move like bishop a6, because it seems as if, okay, why can't we just take the rook? But guys, white doesn't want to give us their queen. right? Because we led with the queen, white doesn't have to take back with the queen. They can simply capture back with the knight, and all of a sudden, we just gave up a queen for a rook, and really nothing to show for it. I mean, we can take this bishop now, but guys, this is just not looking too good for black. So guys, that is why we see this move, queen f8. So the very moment that this bishop moves, we can take that rook and then take the file yet again with the a rook swinging through, and that's exactly what we see. And here white plays the move bishop takes g6, but I don't really like this move. Guys, in chess, we always have to decide when to keep tension and when to get rid of it. And in this situation, I think that this only helps white going forward. First off, every single move, black has to think about if white takes on g6. And on top of that, what is this bishop going to do but just eventually take on d3, which is only going to improve either the knight or the queen, depending on the situation in this game. Right now, these back rank pieces on e1 and c1 aren't very active. White should play moves like bishop e3 or knight f3. And against bishop takes, okay, we can take back with the queen or the knight, and we're just playing chess. But now by taking on g6, this makes things very easy for black. In fact, right now, you could argue that we have two double pawns, but what we actually have is a pawn cube. Pawn cubes are very hard and rare to come across in the game of chess. I've been playing chess a long time, guys, and I can't remember the last time I had one. Notice here, though, how solid this pawn structure is on the king side of the board. I mean, right now, these pawns are really controlling nearly a quarter of the board, and you could argue that it's hard to make pawn breakthroughs in the endgame, but for the meantime, it's making the positioning of this king very secure and very difficult for white to really do anything on the king side of the board as of now. We see this move knight f3, and now black continuing with c6, and now white brings the queen back to that d3 square, in which case we see rook e7 followed by queen e8. Remember, guys, we want our rooks to lead the charge, not our queen, especially if we ever face a move like rook e1. I would much rather give up my rook than give up my queen. Here we see the move a5 from white, and now knight b8, a solid move, just trying to hold this position together and also defending that pawn on b7. And here we see this move queen c4, and now from black the move b5. This is not a blunder by any means, but you could say that it's a little bit unnecessary, and it does give us some unnecessary complications. I mean, right now white could play a takes b6, which is exactly what happened in the game, but here I think white's best option is rook a8. Notice how this rook is flying all the way down to the 8th rank, and now is pinning our knight to the queen on e8, some pressure on c6, and all of a sudden, black has to be a little bit careful. Before playing the move b5, we had a closed position with this rook defending the pawn on b7, and everything was fine, but all of a sudden, white's pieces are getting a little bit of activity. That being said, after the move rook a8, black is still far from losing that game, but instead we see this move knight h4, which allows black time to play b5, and after this move queen b3, play knight d7. A very nice move from our guy Pep, eyeing this b6 square. White really needs to waste no time in playing c4 immediately, because if they play one more move, let's just say they waste a move like king h1, we're simply able to continue with knight b6, not just attacking c4 with our pawn, but with a pawn and a knight, and c4 simply will not be able to be played for the rest of this game. In fact, this knight can jump from b6 into c4, attacking that bishop, and things just aren't looking very good for white. But we do not see this move, c4. In fact, we see knight takes g6, which offers black a very nice opportunity here. And here our guy Pep found a very nice continuation. Pause the video if you'd like, and try to see what black did here. Assuming that you paused the video and tried to see what you would do in this position, here our guy Pep found the astounding and shocking move, rook takes e3, giving up the rook for the bishop. And notice here, we're going to cover what happens after f takes e3, because that's what happened in the game. But if white doesn't take on e3, they have a lot of kinks to work out. In fact, if they don't take back, I mean, first off, we're simply up a piece for a pawn. But on top of that, we're threatening to play rook e1 with check, and then simply finish off with a checkmate because of our queen and this bishop taking away the escape square of h2. Because of that, white can't play some kind of move like rook a8 trying to distract our queen, because we simply have a mate and one. And here after f takes e3, we see this queen fly in with queen takes, and here white made a big mistake in playing the move king f1, and I realized that after king h1, this just doesn't look very pretty after queen g3, but notice here, white can barely hang on here with a move like king g1, giving that king an escape square, or even just playing the move knight to e5, giving up that minor piece. And again, I mean, after f takes e5, black is simply much better, but the game is not completely over yet. In fact, here white could play the move c4 offering a queen trade. And now as black, I mean, we could play a move like queen g5 or even just take the queen on b3 and then take on d4. Again, very ugly position for white. I mean, even if the move rook a6 is played trying to win a pawn, we don't really care about the pawn. Past pawns must be pushed. We're going to play d3, and against rook takes c6, drop that bishop back to f8. And notice here, white really needs to play a move like rook a6 and try to get this rook back as fast as they can, because if c takes b5, we play d2, and all of a sudden, both c1 and d6 are taken away from the rook. We're about to have a queen, and we're about to win this game. However, instead of this move, king h1, which responds against queen g3 with either king back to g1 or knight e5 ideas, we see king f1, which allows bishop g3 from black. And notice here how now the king cannot even move, and we're threatening a mate in one, and none of these white pieces can get there. This queen can't get to f2, the rook can't get to f2, and neither can the knight. So white's only hope here is to try to checkmate this king, and I do have to admit that black calculated very well here. This may seem scary. I mean, a knight on g6, a queen pinning that pawn on f7, and a rook flying out of nowhere, but it turns out we're simply okay after king h7. In most positions, if white plays a move like queen takes f7, I mean, this game is almost one move from being over, but they're one move too late because of queen f2 or queen e1. So here we see rook h8 check trying to bring that king out, but all of a sudden, guys, we have a safe king, and the pawn cube has officially paid off, and here, white resigned the game. Very nice game from our guy, Pepper Westwood. If you'd like to learn the theory behind the Alekhine's defense, click that video to the left. If you'd like to learn the theory behind the Saragossa opening, very interesting and strong opening for white, starting off with the move c3, click that video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.